RPTV Weekly News Show. My name is Fred Alvarado and my co-hosts are Murphy Brown, Jessica Mvutu, and today we welcome Jabin Haque for events in Regent Park area. We present news that impacts on Regent Park and the other surrounding communities located in the downtown east neighborhoods of Toronto.
In this episode, we present to you the following news stories for the week of October 19th, 2021. Regent Park is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Huron-Wendat. According to Canada's 2016 census, the Indigenous population in Toronto is 46,315. However, agencies serving the Indigenous community in Toronto estimate that there are 70,000 residents living in Toronto and that Indigenous peoples are undercounted due to a reluctance to fill out censuses and the population's transient nature. Many Indigenous inhabitants reside in the downtown, low-income neighborhood of Regent Park, Moss Park, and St. Jamestown. However, far too often, Indigenous residents are invisible and only reflected in issues that relate to homelessness. In an effort to change this, we, the Regent Park Weekly News, is committed to bringing you news and stories on Indigenous communities in the downtown east and city of Toronto. The following is a report by Jessica Mvutu on the Ontario Ministry announcement on the development of a new Indigenous curriculum for grades 1 to 3.
On September 29, 2021, one day ahead of the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, Ontario's Education Minister, Stephen Lecce, announced a new funding and curriculum aimed at strengthening Indigenous learning. The curriculum, which will be mandatory for all students, is being developed for grades 1 to 3. The announcement came after growing calls for the government to devote more of the school curriculum to Indigenous education, following the discovery of hundreds of unmarked graves at residential schools earlier this year. The curriculum is set to be ready for the 2023 to 2024 school year. In addition to the curriculum, $23.96 million will be invested this school year.
We are announcing $24 million in dedicated funding that will allow Indigenous partners, school boards, and other education stakeholders to provide supportive, culturally appropriate, and safe education opportunities for Indigenous students while strengthening Ontario's education system and the well-being of all learners in this province.
Skeptics challenge the sincerity of the government's announcement. They point out that Ontario has not made the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation a provincial statutory holiday and argued that the previous Liberal government had committed to update course content at the elementary and secondary levels in 2016 to teach all students about the legacy of residential school. But in 2018, those plans were scrapped by the current progressive conservative government, right before curriculum writing sessions with Indigenous educators and elders were set to begin. Ontario's curriculum currently includes Indigenous topics in social studies for grades 4 to 6 and in history classes in grades 7, 8, and 10. As it stands, the province's curriculum includes mandatory learning on residential schools in grades 8 and 10, introduced in 2018.
And now we have good news for Regent Park residents who are employed by temp agencies or recruiters. as Ontario is set to introduce legislation that would require temporary help agencies and recruiters to be licensed. If approved, the proposed legislation would require temporary help agencies and recruiters to have a license to operate. It would also spell out penalties for unlicensed temp agencies and recruiters, as well as businesses who use unlicensed agencies. Labor Minister Monte McNaughton said there are more than 3,000 agencies in the province, and the vast majority operate ethically, but not all.
Unfortunately, some are lawbreakers who exploit their workers. This needs to change. Over the past 2 years, my ministry has focused inspections on temporary help agencies. The underground activity they found makes millions of dollars off the backs of workers by not paying minimum wage, not paying holiday pay, and not paying overtime pay. They also found recruiters charging workers illegal hiring fees and then clawing back their pay. This ends now.
The government wants the licensing system to be in place in 2024. In the meantime, Ontario is proposing to hire a team of officers to address illegal practices.
Residents of the Inglewood Arms, a rooming house in downtown Toronto, are celebrating after the Landlord and Tenant Board found them to be tenants with full protection of the Residential Tenancies Act 2006 and not hotel guests, as their landlord asserted. The order, dated October 7th, 2021, came after 3 days of hearings. It is a horrible thing to live at the whim of a landlord who slowly erodes the tenant's rights that so many fought so hard to attain. Even the most diligent and compliant of tenants will feel vulnerable and abused. I've lived at the Inglewood rooming house for over 12 years and know many tenants who've lived there many years as well. Despite this, the landlord asserted we were mere hotel guests with no rights. So adamant was the landlord, and so important is this cause, I decided to challenge the landlord at the Landlord and Tenant Board for all my fellow tenants. The board's decision confirms that we are tenants and that we have rights that must be respected. This feels like a great weight is off of my shoulders, said tenant Joseph Da Silva.
I've lived in the area for 20 years. I'm in my current situation through no fault of my own. My doctors, my family, everyone is in the area. I wish to continue in that area. A great many of the people in the Inglewood Arms are incredibly sick. A lot of us are on disability. Some will not make the new building. And some have been forgotten. This is a convenient place to place us, and yet it gives us a spot for us to live our lives to the best of our ability. We're asking the city to help us.
The Inglewood Arms has been proposed as the site for a new residential building. Tenants and their advocates have obtained assurances from the potential developer Tricon that they would be rehoused at their current rents. The LTB's decision reaffirms the obligation of any potential developer to respect the rights of tenants in the process. We have met with City of Toronto officials and Councillor Kristen Wong Tam. This decision confirms we have rights as tenants, and we expect our rights will be respected by the landlord and that the developer lives up to its commitment to preserve affordable housing, should the building be redeveloped, said Mr. Da Silva. The monthly meeting of the Regent Park Executive Directors Network took place on Monday, October 18th over Zoom. The Executive Directors Network is a network comprised of executive directors and senior decision makers representing agencies that serve the Regent Park neighborhood. The network has been in existence since 2005. The current chairs are Paulos Ghebreyesus, Executive Director from the Regent Park Community Health Center, and Adonis Huggins, Executive Director of the Focus Media Arts Center. The October 18th ED Network meeting was chaired by Adonis Huggins, as Paulus was not able to attend. The meeting began with COVID-19 and vaccine updates. Much of the discussion related to staff participant vaccination policies that individual agencies have adopted to deal with unvaccinated staff. Following this, Mercedes Watson, Executive Director from Dixon Hall, led a discussion on data fusion related to software that multiple agencies might be able to share related to tracking and measurement tools. Mercedes will follow up with this in future meetings. The next agenda item discussed was about youth services collaboration led by Serena Newdell from the neighborhood group. Serena wondered about the past work of the ED network around youth coordination and how the ED network will support the work of youth development in the neighborhood, including the Scene Collective. The group talked about its past work and commitment to youth priorities and agreed that Serena from TNG and Greg Gary, the ED from Kiwanis Club, could lead a revitalized process building on work that has been done in the past. The next item was a discussion about the social development plan led by Greg Gary, who is the ED Network's representative to the SDP and the new agency co-chair of the SDP stakeholders table, taking over from Paulus and Adonis. Greg gave the group an update on the deep dive and the SDP is currently engaged in. Greg felt that some of the projects submitted was a duplication with services already offered in the community. Greg wondered, how can the ED network inform the SDP process in future? Other members felt out of touch with the SDP plan and its activities. The group agreed that more work has to be done to communicate both the work of the ED network to the SDP, as well as the work of the SDP to the ED network table. The main agenda of the ED meeting was a discussion related to revamping the group's terms of reference. Jennifer Stone from Neighborhood Legal Services, who is re-editing the terms of reference, indicated that she felt that some of the sections could be eliminated or simplified. It was also agreed that the terms of reference has to be aligned with the SDP. Mercedes from Dixon Hall talked about the need to build a remuneration process for a coordinator to support the work of the ED network. As part of the action items, the ED leads for the main subcommittee will submit description drafts. Adonis Huggins announced that today's meeting was the end of his 2-year term as the ED Network's chair. After some declined nominations, Jim Nason volunteered. Jim will start his term in November. The last half hour of each ED network is generally devoted to guests. This meeting featured a presentation from the Regent Park Neighborhood Association and a request for support around some of the issues that were presented. Jim Nason, Adonis Huggins, Paulus Gresusas, and Greg Gary will follow up with RPNA about how the ED network can support them.
The second session of the annual 2021 SDP Deep Dive took place over Zoom on the evening of October 18th, 2021. Representatives of the SDP stakeholders table were present along with invited guests who were proposing projects for funding. The deep dive is a unique consensus decision-making model designed by the SDP Planning Committee to determine how $500,000 of yearly city funding towards the Regent Park Social Development Plan will be spent. Any resident, organization, or group residing in or serving Regent Park could submit a proposal to the deep dive for any activity as long as that activity is deemed to improve the lives of residents in Regent Park. Additionally, proposals should be aligned with one of the 4 priority areas of the SDP communications: community building, economic development, and employment and safety. The second session of the deep dive was hosted by Michael Rosenberg of the Regent Park Social Action Group and Denise Sodean O'Leary from Center for Social Innovation. After the land acknowledgement, the second deep dive session began by taking questions or concerns from the group about the proposals that were submitted. A question was directed regarding the revised budget of a project submitted for $500,000 and what their revised budget was, which could not be answered due to the representative not being present. Subsequently, questions were raised why the submitter had not attended the meeting. With the exception of this project, all other representatives were on hand to respond to questions. At the meeting, there was some attention paid to irregularities. Joel Klassen, co-chair for the Community Working Group, reported that the funding for the Cut Access to Sports project would be given to the Basketball Ascension project, and that this group would therefore withdraw their proposal for funding in 2021. There was a heated debate about the fairness of a project that was not among the proposals reviewed at the first deep dive meeting. Furthermore, this same proposal was not available for members to see, and to make matters worse, the person proposing the project had not attended and was unavailable to answer questions. After some debate, it was made clear that the proposal was submitted in time to the Community Working Group, but the co-chairs failed to include the proposal with the others. After some debate, the group agreed that the proposal would therefore be considered for funding, although no one knew what the project was or what they were asking for. After the questioning of proposals had ended, the meeting turned to declarations of transparency and conflict of interest. According to Michael Bronsberg, co-facilitator of the meeting, A conflict of interest occurs when a member that is involved in decision-making about funding would personally be financially benefiting from the project, receiving funds as a staff or honoraria. Members who are in conflict of interest will be asked to excuse themselves from decision-making about the project in question. In addition to receiving funds, for transparency purposes, every member attending was asked to declare what projects they were either involved with or trustee in. A chart was provided by Denise, and every member attending to the deep dive was asked to identify which working group they were from, which project they were representing, whether they were being paid and therefore in conflict of interest, and who was the trustee for their project. Following the conflict of interest and transparency section, the group moved on to identifying principles of working together to obtain consensus. In this section, members were asked to provide a value or action related to working together. Some of the words that came up were respect, trust, openness, transparency, honesty. Finally, after the closing remarks from the facilitators and comments from some of the attendees about how well the group worked together, Michael Rosenberg ended the evening by talking about the next session and how the group will achieve the goal of reducing the approximately $1 million budget to $500,000. All Regent Park residents vaccinated against COVID-19 can now download their enhanced certificates, which include a QR code. The provincial government has said the scannable documents will allow for faster entry into settings that require proof of vaccination. As of Monday, the Ministry of Health said that 215,000 Ontario residents had downloaded their code. And today we welcome Jabin Haque with events in Regent Park community.
Thank you. Now presenting events in Regent Park community for a week October 19th to October 25th. On our first event, there will be a repair clinic by the Regent Park Sewing Studio. You can drop your clothes off for a repair by highly skilled Regent Park Sewing Studio members. One clinic is hosted every Saturday from October 9th to December 18th. From 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Center of Learning and Development. The cost varies by item. You can register at the link at the bottom of your screen. The second event we have is by Trustee Chris Morris, Ward 10 University, Rosedale and Toronto Centre, is inviting parents and caregivers in the Regent Park community to join his next forum, Navigating the System, on Friday 22 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. You can join the Ward Forum on Zoom link with emailed to you after you registered by contacting Shuraya Ibrahim at shuraya@tccld.org or by phone at 647-493-2462, extension 112. This forum is organized in partnership with Center of Learning and Development, Mothers of Peace, and Regent Park Safety Network. All Regent Park residents are welcome to join the Regent Park Successful Advocacy, From Minds to Words. There will be 6 sessions every Tuesday from 1 to 3 p.m. Starting October 26th, participants will learn from the following modules: City Hall 101, How to Speak at Government Meetings, Successful Stories Part 1 and 2, Hearing from a City of Toronto Representative and Speaking with Confidence. To register, contact the email or phone at the bottom of your screen. Regent Park Successful Advocacy is brought to you by Regent Park Safety Network in partnerships with Mothers of Peace and Center of Learning and Development. Join us for a community conversation focused on dismantling white supremacy and healthcare on Wednesday, October 27th from 4 to 6 p.m. Learn from our community, medical experts, and survivors of medical racism. This will also be an opportunity to talk together about healing and transforming healthcare. The guest speakers include Dr. Nahid Dosani and Sumaya Abdi. You can join the community conversation on Zoom using the link at the bottom of your screen. Regent Park School of Music is inviting you to a seminar series investigating different aspects of the music industry. This will take place on October 28th from 7 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. with panelist Francis Got Heat. You can reserve a spot at www.rpmusic.org/events to attend these free online events. Regent Park Film Festival is calling for filmmakers for Regent Park Made Visible. Commissioned artists will receive $5,000 an artist fee plus a $5,000 production budget. The deadline is October 31st, 2021. For more information, go to Regent Park Film Festival's website. YEY has launched the Youth Crisis Care Fund, financially supported by the Social Development Plan. The funds aim to support youth from Regent Park who are between the ages of 12 to 29 years who are experiencing a crisis. The online application must be completed by a youth worker, agency, or community leader affiliated with an agency or STD working group. For more information, contact Youth Empowering Youth. Thank you. Those are all the events in Regent Park. Hope to see you there.
And that's all for today's show. My name is Fred Alvarado, and my co-hosts are Murphy Brown, Jessica Mvutu, and Jabin Haque from our studios at Focus Media Arts Center. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out all of our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.